As he did that, the gun did go off. And if I wasn't laying down setting up the camera, I probably would have been shot. After I completed my work on the Fast and Furious movies, I settled into a job as Global Marketing Director for MagnaFlow Performance Exhaust. But the excitement of producing automotive films was still on my mind. I wanted to continue to produce more content, and I got another opportunity by producing a DVD with one of the producers of the Fast and Furious movie. The guy's name was Doug Claiborne, and we called it Red Line, which wasn't my idea, but it was what it was. The DVD was released in 2004, and it featured top tuner cars and a bikini car wash sequence at the end. That story is coming up right after the break. I don't know if you know this, but I actually now have a merch store, and if you haven't checked out the video description below my videos, then you're missing out. Currently, I've got a pack full of movie quote t-shirts, and more styles are being added every month, and new items are in development right now. So have a look, see if there's anything you like, and wear it with pride. The link is in the video description below. Later that year, I convinced MagnaFlow to co-sponsor a TV series about drifting and the tuner car culture, which seemed to be at the peak at that time. It too was called Redline TV, again, not my choice. It ran for a couple of seasons, and then MagnaFlow lost its taste for it. I left MagnaFlow in early 2007 and took another position with a publishing group, but I still wanted to produce automotive content. By 2008, I wanted to get back into making videos, and with the recent launch of a platform called YouTube, this provided another opportunity. And at the time, I was married to an import model who happened to be a very talented photographer. She was well connected in the tuner world. She traveled around with the tuner guys for a long time and was taking pictures of models at our house, which back at the time featured a Playboy style grotto with the swim up cave and all that kind of stuff. So it occurred to me that with my access to cool cars and her access to pretty girls who want to be models, there had to be a way to combine these elements into a video series. I wanted it to be provocative and sexy, but I wanted to make sure that the girls were portrayed as being automotive aficionados and enthusiasts. So what I came up with was sort of a road test review, but with pretty girls who are articulate and personable. Bikini Driving School was born. Now all I needed was some modest funding to get it off the ground. Coincidentally, back then there was a company called Next New Networks who was looking for producers. The company was producing shows like Fast Lane Daily and Garage 419. It was hosted by Matt Farah. I'm sure most of you know Matt. So Next New Networks agreed to fund the project, and we got started. The series starred a lot of big names back then, like Sasha Singleton, Helen Sue, Lila D, and even an adult film star called Akira Lane. My wife did the casting of the girls, and so there was no funny business. Everything was on the up and up. My camera crew members were true professionals, and the vibe on set was great. It was actually kind of family-like, if you can believe that. The ladies were really good sports and worked hard to get the shots. They knew what they were getting themselves into, and they played along. It also helped that my wife was very good friends with most of these young ladies, and she pretty much oversaw all of the activities on set and even helped to direct and choreographed the car wash sequences. She also helped to make sure that the footage was sexy but not over the line. We didn't want this to become porn. She took great care directing each episode's final scene, which was always a sudsy car wash. We tried to keep it classy in the rest of the video, but when we got to the car wash thing, we were always kind of teetering on the edge of being over the line. And of course, my producers back in New York really wanted to pander to the mostly male audience, so we had to push it a few times. I guess it didn't really help that I was getting a little bit cheesy with the episode titles. I actually called one episode Tig Old Biddies. Not a proud moment for me looking back, but there was not one complaint in the comment section of the videos, so forgive me. Episode 13 was called Sex and the SMG, and it featured a professional pole dancer by the name of Lila D. What we learned from this video is that provocative camera angles were always good for another 100,000 views on YouTube. And she really did it well. And the series finale, episode 15, featured an actual adult film star who decided to go nude. Mind you, we were filming on Harbor Boulevard in Orange County, California, so you can imagine how that went over with people driving by. Of course, these were the days before YouTube clamped down on copyrighted music, so we had better options for music, which helped with some of the videos. The one drawback we had back then was that internet speeds were not so good, so we had to drop the resolution dramatically to keep the file sizes down, and most videos weren't even 720p. And back then, of course, 1080 HD cameras were very expensive, so that was out of the question. The series ended when Next New Network started going through some financial issues, and we ended up making a total of 15 episodes. And so when the show ended, I thought the concept was dead. We had been there, done that. How do you take it further? You get into soft porn, right? About a year later, I got a call from Emma Rensing, one of the bigwigs at Next New Networks. It seemed that Playboy TV got a whiff of Bikini Driving School, and they loved the idea. Come to find out that they wanted to build upon our idea of cars and girls for a series that would not be pornographic, but edgy, as described by our bosses at Playboy. So a meeting was arranged to hash out the concept, and so we went off to Playboy TV's office over on Media Drive here in Los Angeles and had a meeting with a guy by the name of Daniel Rogers. Frankly, I was excited to pursue any opportunity because I just wanted to do something with cars and girls on video. But this time, I wanted to diversify a bit. I felt that this show shouldn't be bimbos and cars. I wanted the girls to jump into action sports, essentially show them doing anything men could do with great competence or even better. All the man stuff that we do, right? To have girls do it. So we came up with a list of possible activities that would make for good segments. We would have them driving around in dune buggies, flying fighter planes, I'll get to that in a minute, shooting machine guns, right? That should be cool. Who doesn't like a firing range? Taking rides on jet skis, flying ultralights, skydiving, bungee jumping, zip lining, drifting, street racing exotic cars, snowboarding, mud bogging down south with some good old boys. We were even going to have them drive a real military tank from World War II and fire the cannon. It was all set up. We had it all booked and everything. We were also going to have them drive the Robosaurus, which is a giant mechanical robot which goes to truck shows often, and it looks like a mechanical dinosaur. This robot thing picks up cars with its mechanical claws and then pretends to eat them. So we got hired to produce it, and we were asked to produce multiple segments for multiple episodes, so we got started. The show is going to be called Badass, and if you Google it, you'll find some G-rated versions of it online. But I honestly went into this project thinking that the girls would be wearing clothes, you know, skimpy outfits, but clothes, and I held that belief right up until the moment I walked into the auditions. The auditions took place at the same office over on Media Drive, and I was in the room with a male casting director on one side and a female casting director on the other side. The way we did it is we set up an easel with a grease board on which there was a snippet of dialogue that each girl would have to come in, memorize it, and recite it back to us without looking at the board. And it all seemed very professional, and Playboy was very professional. The first girl came into the room, and my eyes were on my clipboard looking at her name, her acting career, her modeling credits, and all that kind of stuff in the background. So I had my head down on my clipboard. When I looked up, I was looking at a butt-naked, buxom blonde standing about 15 feet away from me. Damn! I immediately thought I was in the wrong screening room, and I'm like, am I here for the right program? Why would we need to see the girls in the nude? We're not filming. A bathing suit would have been fine. We get the idea of her body, right? I surmised that maybe that she was confused and she chose to be nude, but she didn't know that she didn't need to be nude. I just kind of shook it off, and then the next girl walked in, also naked. And now I was getting suspicious. I leaned over to the female casting director and asked her why the girls had to be nude for this process. She was very professional about it. She said, basically, the girls need to be comfortable being nude while delivering their lines here, or else they're not going to do well on set. That kind of made sense, actually. It was then explained to me that the girls would actually be nude part of the time during certain sequences. I couldn't imagine that, but okay, here we go. The audition process was to go on for 5 consecutive days, but after about 4 hours of watching young naked women audition, my attitude started to change. Initially, I was basically taken aback by the sheer beauty of these girls. Each one of them seemed to be a perfect 10. Perfect body, totally proportionate, accented with amazing smiles and great enthusiasm. It just seemed like really wonderful people. The majority of the girls had a marvelous sense of humor about what they were doing, and they had great personalities. But by midday, To be honest, I started feeling pretty creepy. I just started feeling bad for these girls. I know some of them were using this as a means to an end to further their education or to promote their modeling career, but it just didn't feel right somehow. And as fun as I thought this experience was going to be, it was getting to be too much. By lunchtime, I just couldn't sit through it anymore. It was just giving me a jaded view on life and unrealistic expectations of real people. So I couldn't shake the feeling that these girls, although they were in their 20s, they were still kids to me. And I was into my early 40s by that time, and I was just never motivated to try to date someone half my age. I just never got that gene, I guess. And so I felt really, really creepy. So I stepped outside and called one of my colleagues to take over the audition process. He spent the next couple of days up there. He was able to cope with it a little bit better, but by Friday, it was all over. We had our ladies and we were done with that. And so over the next several months, we filmed and produced several segments. We got started with naked skydiving, which is a fun one, naked dune buggy rides, drifting at Adams Motorsports Park out here in Jurupa Valley, California. We flew fighter planes, we shot machine guns in the desert, and my favorite segment, the ultralight segment. So there's some good stories here that I'm gonna jump into one by one. For the Vegas shooting segment, we had a girl who had a shotgun with a big drum magazine. And she was playing around with it, and she spun off to one side, and she had her finger on the trigger, and the range master popped the barrel up so it didn't go off. As he did that, the gun did go off, and if I wasn't laying down setting up the camera, I probably would have been shot.
Let's cut it for a second.
That was a wake-up call. She was scared shitless. The next segment that we did was flying fighter planes. There's a place in Southern California where you can get into these two-seater propeller airplanes. They're acrobatic planes. They're called Marquettis, and they're set up to do dogfighting. You know, you've got this little gun sight and all that kind of thing. A pilot sit next to you, and you can sit here. And they do some of the flying, and then they let you have the stick a little bit, and they guide you through it, and you try and get on the tail of another plane. And if the electronic gun sight gets on the target and smoke comes out of the airplane, it's like mock dogfighting. So the girls had to wear flight suits, but they were, what's the word I'm looking for? Wide open. We only needed 2 pilots to be there that day to fly the 2 planes, and of course we had our helicopter pilot. Basically, instead of only bringing in 2 pilots, all the pilots that worked there came in that day. All 10 of them were there. Gee, I wonder why. That went off very well. I mean, I almost fell out of the helicopter, but thankfully I had a strap on. Not that kind of strap on. I strap on so that I didn't fall out of the helicopter. My mayonnaise is disgusting. Disgusting. And then the last one was the ultralights. Ultralights are basically hang gliders with an engine in it. It's a 2-seat tandem. So the naked girl sits up front and the pilot sits above and behind the passenger. The guy who was running this school out in Oxnard, California, was friends with people at the Navy base at Port Hueneme. It was an active base at the time. So he would get a request sent through for a flyby of the tower, right, occasionally, with his students. So this time he did it, and as he flew over the tower, or about by the tower, he kicked the rudder to one side, and there was a bunch of Navy officers standing on the railing there, and then he was only a short distance away from the tower, maybe 100 feet or maybe less. I don't know whose story I believe. When they went by sideways, pretty much sideways with this little ultralight, the people standing in the tower got to see a naked Playboy girl. And then after the bigwigs in the Navy got a hold of that information, they gave us a call at the Playboy office and said, you cannot run that footage. But it happened. Anyway, that was a hell of a thing. So I got to know some of these girls, and I felt more like a big brother to them over the period of time we worked together. I became friends with several of them. We've stayed in touch over the years. All of them are doing well. Most of them moved on to professional careers in one endeavor or another. Nurses, engineers, all that kind of stuff. One gal, CJ Miles, she went into the adult entertainment industry. I think she's still doing that, last I heard. Most of us became friends, and after filming, we usually went off to a crew dinner. And for the Playboy stuff, when we wrapped a segment, we would usually go off to a big club. You know, the girls like to dance and all that kind of stuff. So that was kind of fun for a while. I've often said that I've had my fair share of luck, and I'm truly grateful for all the opportunities I've been given. And the Playboy Badass episodes and the Bikini Driving School were 2 great opportunities that gave me a lot of experience and a lot of great stories. So I hope you enjoyed this one. See you next time.